Hello and welcome to Projects with Greg. Today we're going to figure out what's going on with my Honda Accord. It's a 2001 EX, and one morning I came out and started the car and saw this. Notice that the car is running, but the battery light is still on, and also all of the doors show as open when they're closed. Since the presence of the battery light while the car is running usually means an alternator issue, let's start there. So I turned off the car and then went and measured the battery with my multimeter. It measures 12.46 volts, so that's okay. Then I measured the battery voltage with the car running. That was 12.01 volts. That's wrong. It should be closer to 14 volts when the car is running, so the alternator appears to not be charging the battery. To test the indicator light to make sure that it's working properly, I'll disconnect the 4-pin connector from the alternator. Then I'll turn on the ignition switch to on 2 position, and notice the light is not on, so that means that the dashboard indicator is working. It's not shorted to always on. Now to test the alternator inputs, with the ignition switch still in the on 2 position, I'm measuring the voltage with a multimeter from pin 1 to ground. The diagram here is showing the wire side of the pins, where I'm measuring from the connector side. We expect to see battery voltage, and we do. If we didn't see battery voltage here, it would mean that there is an open in the wire between the alternator and the under dash driver's side fuse box. So at this point, it seemed to me that the alternator was most likely at fault, not the wiring. So I decided to pull out the alternator. While I'm removing the alternator, this is a good time to press the like button. If you want to be notified of future content like this, please subscribe to my channel. So I started disassembling the alternator, first the end cover, then the brush holder, then the voltage regulator, and the rectifier. So let's test to see if the rectifier is working. I checked the continuity or resistance between the threaded terminal and each of the 4 diode terminals. Checking with the black lead on the threaded terminal and the red lead on the diode terminals should measure resistance. Checking with the leads the other way around should measure open. Next, check between this point on the assembly and the 4 diode terminals. With the black lead on this terminal and the red on the 4 diode terminals, you should measure a value. With the leads the other way around, an open. All of my diodes checked out okay. I inspected the brushes next. Using my caliper, I measured the length of the brushes protruding from the edge of the holder. I measured about 12 1/100ths of an inch on one side and about 8 100ths of it on the other. The service manual says the limit is 6 100ths, and new ones would measure about 40 100ths. Even though these are technically within spec, they are close to the end of their life and likely the issue. So in the interest of being thorough and making sure there isn't more than one problem, I continued to test the stator. The video is a little fuzzy here, but there should be continuity between each of the leads. In my case, they all checked out okay. So I went ahead and ordered a new brush assembly, and here's that replacement part. Notice that the brushes are much longer. So I reassembled the alternator and reinstalled it in the car. Now when I start the car, notice that the battery light is no longer on. Also, only the door that's open is showing as open. I'm not sure why all the door lights were on before, but they work correctly now. If any of you know why, leave the answer in the comments. With the car running, I also measured the battery voltage again, and now it's showing 14 volts. Problem fixed.